Beans to brews. What is beans to brews? Well, it's all about coffee. From the farm where it's grown to the roaster, and then from the roaster to the coffee shops and into your homes or into your car or wherever you're enjoying some really great coffee. So Beans to Brews, a small group of friends talking all about coffee. If you like coffee, you found a great place to find out more about it. We're all learning together. So stay with us from Apostolic Coffee Shop in Radcliffe, Kentucky. We are just going to make several podcast episodes of Beans to Brews.
Hello and welcome back to Beans to Brews. This is our small group where we discuss the fascinating journey of coffee. And in today's session, we will be discussing home brewing methods. My name is Jasmine, and I'm going to help AJ out today in describing what his home brewing method was, and he chose a balance siphon. And a balance siphon, sometimes called a Belgian siphon, is an old-school vacuum coffee maker that uses vapor pressure and gravity to brew coffee. And it's made up of two chambers side by side, one for water, one for coffee. And when you heat the water, it travels to the other side to dance with the coffee grounds. When the heat cuts off, the vacuum pulls the coffee back down, leaving the grounds behind like a mic drop. What you will need to use a balance siphon is one, the balance siphon, and then a butane burner or an alcohol flame, medium to medium fine ground coffee, so it's like beach sand but not too powdery. You might need a filter, and it can be cloth or metal depending on what your setup is. And then, yes, you will need water, filtered preferably, a timer, and then a spoon or stir stick. How to brew it? You're going to need to channel your inner coffee alchemist. Step one is to preheat your globe. Pour some hot water in the water chamber first just to speed things up, then dump it out. So it's like you are heating a thermos before you put your tea in it or your soup in it to make sure that it stays warm. And then step two is to fill the water bulb with your desired amount, let's say 300 milliliters if you're brewing for one. And then number three is light the burner beneath the water chamber. And slowly the water will boil and push itself into the coffee chamber through pressure. And then number four, as the water rises, you're going to want to prep your coffee. You'll want about 1 gram of coffee for every 15 grams of water. That's 20 grams for 300 milliliters, give or take. And then step 5, add the coffee to the top chamber once the water is fully moved. Then you're going to want to stir gently. Don't get too aggressive with it. And then let it steep for about 45 seconds to 90 seconds. And then step number 6, you're allowed to extinguish the flame. As the lower chamber cools, a vacuum is created and boom, the brewed coffee gets pulled back down. Step number 7, you can now remove the top, pour into your coffee mug, and enjoy your first try at a balanced siphon coffee maker. Siphon coffee is clean, it's full-bodied and intense in the best way. It's like a French press without the grit, like pour over with more body, like espresso's elegant cousin who studied abroad, and so on. And let's be honest, using one makes you feel like a god-tier barista from another dimension, and you're not just brewing coffee, you are performing. I have some pro tips for those who want to use a balanced siphon. First one is use a butane burner instead of the alcohol one for just better heat control. And number 2, you're going to want to pre-wet your filter. It can trap odd flavors if you don't. And then another one is never grind too fine. This ain't espresso, so it needs room to breathe. Super fine espresso grinds will not give you the same results because it's got to breathe, and espresso grinds are too fine for this. So you're going to want a medium grind. And then lastly, don't leave the brewed coffee in the globe too long or it'll get really stale really quick. And that's pretty much it for AJ's part on this. And that was pretty much a little crash course into the world of a balanced siphon. It's really a romantic and experimental way of making coffee, and it's one of my favorites too. But later on in this episode, I will be talking about cold brew and how you can brew that at home. And the next home brewing method that we will be discussing is a Chemex pour over, and that will be brought to you by Steph.
Let's talk about Chemex pour over.
Let's talk about it.
Okay, so a Chemex pour over involves placing coffee in a thick paper filter. Did you bring a filter by chance?
I didn't bring the filter, but I do have
within the Chemex glass brewer.
This is what a Chemex looks like.
Then slowly pouring hot water over the grounds in a controlled concentric manner, allowing the coffee to extract evenly and drip into the carafe. In the end, the method produces a clean, bright cup of balanced flavor. So, the things you need, Chemex coffee maker, slurping in my ear, bonded filters, thicker than standard, that reduces bitterness, freshly ground coffee, which the preference is medium coarse, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Similar to a kosher. I thought you said this.
Yeah, kind of like kosher salt.
Yeah. Gooseneck kettle filled with hot water just off the boil, around 200 to 205 degrees.
Yes.
A scale and some form of timer if you're new to doing it, you can't eyeball it. So brew ratio, this is kind of where I got thrown off. So because I was looking it up and like everyone said something different. Common ratio is between 115 to 117?
Yes.
Is that right? Okay, so 115 is going to be a stronger, more intense, and then 116 is like balanced, right down the middle?
Depending on the kind of coffee grounds that you use, whatever beans you're using, some people you may like one coffee at 1 to 17 and like another coffee at 1 to 14.
Okay, so it's not
It doesn't have to be exact. And it's really preference based on, we usually do 1 to 15 at the coffee shop most times.
Okay.
And pour over is one that like you can change any variable along the way and you can get different results. And some people just have different preferences based off of how they like to do their pour overs.
Yeah.
Okay, so just to throw out an example, I used 116. So grams of coffee will equal the grams of water divided by 16.
Okay.
Say you're using 720 grams of water, you choose the 116 ratio, you'll need 45 grams of ground coffee. Tips for better brewing: pay attention to the grind size. Too fine will result in over extraction or a bitter taste.
Right.
Too coarse will result in under extraction or a sour taste. Yeah. And fresh coffee is key. So step-by-step brewing. First step, boil your water. Heat your water to 200 to 205 degrees. I think I heard you say last week you like yours at like 202.
Yeah, 202, 203. And a kettle that measures that to the exact and will hold it is what you want.
And that right there, right?
Yeah, that's a
Some
barista kettle.
electric,
Yeah. Something, there's many different kinds, but anything that holds, like you can get just a normal one. That's like the specialty pour ones, but anything that holds it. If you have, one thing I would say on kettles with a pour over is if you have like a wide, like one of those triangle type spouts for your kettle, the water can come out really fast.
Okay.
Whereas if you have a thin neck,
Like a gooseneck.
yeah. it comes out much easier when you're doing your circles.
Okay. So preparing the filter, which we don't have here, but we'll just read through this. Unfold the Chemex filter, placing the 3-layered side against the spout, but not directly up against it because it causes suction. Did I read that correctly?
Right.
Rinse with hot water to remove any papery taste, and this will also preheat the Chemex.
Yes.
And then discard that rinsed water before you add your coffee grounds. Add your coffee grounds, which has been ground to medium coarse grind, and center the coffee into the brewer and tare the scale.
Yep. Some people like to do get their water to temperature and then use that. I mean, you can do it any way you want, but use that to kind of preheat the filter. Some people will I'll run sometimes if I'm in a hurry, I'll run mine through underneath the hot water, just kind of dump it out and stick it in there, put my grounds in, and I'm ready to go. But you can do it either way.
Have you ever not done that? Like, does it actually taste like paper?
No, it doesn't taste like paper. It just, I don't think it comes out as smooth.
Yeah, it doesn't come out as smooth. And also if you don't like preheat the like this whole thing, essentially, when the coffee's dripping down, like this cold glass will just make the coffee cold by the time it's done dripping out. So it's just a good idea to preheat this whole thing plus the filter.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's a flavor killer.
Yeah, flavor killer.
Flavor killer. So if you're pulse pouring, because there's pulse pouring and continuous, correct? You guys do a pulse pour here?
Yes.
Yeah. Which is a recommended method, everything I read. There'll be multiple pours totaling however much water you determined you will be using based on whichever ratio you have chosen.
Yeah.
So the first pour, which is the bloom pour, start the timer when you add the hot water. Pour until you have reached twice the measure of coffee and water over the grounds. And this is called the bloom pour
Because
the coffee will expand, releasing CO2 gases that were trapped during roasting, creating a bloom.
it's really kind of a cool thing too.
And I've never seen it other than on YouTube.
Well, then you'll have to come
We'll have to do it.
to an actual pour over.
And pour in concentric circles to saturate all the grounds.
So, a little pro tip: the key is don't drown the beans.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what Matt was telling me. On the
Yeah, just don't drown the beans.
Don't drown them.
Slow and steady.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, like
Matt.
if you have your scale and your timer, like by the first minute, you don't really want to go over like 100 or so grams.
Yeah, it just depends on how much you're doing, how many cups you're doing, but yeah.
Yeah. And that's where I was telling you, that's where I got stressed out because I've never done this, so I don't know how much to pour in and when.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
No,
You
you're
won't know.
fine.
So you'll let this sit for about 30 seconds, starting your next pour at around the 45-second mark.
Kind of think about what you're doing there is just releasing the flavor. Everything else is going to be like a bonus. You're releasing the flavor with that first pour. It's like unlocking the beans,
Okay.
basically.
I don't have much on the second or third pour,
Yeah,
but
but it's basically just now. It's just
it's making sure it doesn't.
the water's coming through, extracting the coffee. Yeah, that's it.
Cool. So you'll slowly pour the remaining water in stages using small circles, bringing it up until you've reached your designated amount of water, which is again based on your ratio. Aim for a total brew time of 3 to 4 minutes.
Yeah.
3.5, 4 minutes.
Just depends on how much you're making. Yeah.
And then drain and serve. Allow water to drain through the filter, remove the filter, and discard the grounds. And then swirl for even flavor distribution.
Yep. And if you're measuring it, you know exactly how much water to how much coffee because like you said, you tore it, the scale, and then you poured the water on, and then it's done whenever the water is through and kind of. So sometimes it just depends on how great your grinder is. If you're grinding at home, your grinder may not be as good as like a commercial grinder, so it may take longer than 3.5 minutes, or it may take you might not have ground it well enough, and it may be faster than 3.5 minutes. But yeah, you can kind of adjust that though as you need to.
That's all I got.
Good.
Yeah, and some people may think that like all this equipment that we're asking people to get to like brew just 1 cup of coffee is a lot of extra stuff. But like one of the best things that you can do to make your coffee better is to add consistency to it.
Yeah. Just
knowing how much you're putting into everything and knowing what time you want your brew to be about.
Yeah.
That's when you can start making really good coffee.
And if you go to a coffee shop and you ask them how many grams or how many whatever ounces you use, and they say, "Oh, I don't know, it's just a pump or 2," then you probably need to go find another coffee shop if you want great coffee, because every good coffee shop measures. They measure everything. They measure their water. They measure their syrups. They measure their grams of coffee. Everything is measured so that it's even, so that you come in one day and you get a drink, it should taste the same way from a different barista the next day in the same coffee shop. So, yeah, measuring is key. There are scales. I was going to bring mine. I'll bring it to a future episode, but I've got one that's literally that big, and it's just tiny, but it's powerful. Like it'll do just about everything you need to do, especially on the go. So. Get you a kitchen scale that measures pretty good. So, all right. That brings us to French press.
Yeah. I like French press.
Yeah.
It's the only thing I have at home, so it's
Okay.
what I know best. It's like a good introduction for people that aren't really into it.
Yep.
And want to feel like they are.
Mm-hmm.
Me. But yeah, and it takes like 6 minutes if you want it fully like marinated and rich.
Mm-hmm.
And I usually just make it for like 1 cup, and I'll put in however much coffee. I need to steal our ratios because I forget, but I usually do like 4 tablespoons of coffee, which is why I don't think it prices right. It's 1 part coffee to about 12 to 15 parts water.
Aha.
Yeah,
Wow.
So you don't need
that much.
as much.
Yeah.
We do 12.
Yeah.
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 So 1 to 12.
Yes.
Do you know why that is?
I don't.
Okay, well, if you're doing something else, like if you're using pour over, right? So you're not going to stir a pour over. You're literally just pouring it over.
Yeah.
With the French press, you're going to stir it.
Yeah.
So you're actually like forcing the coffee out of the bean.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah. That's why I like it, because it's more rich and more flavor. And the reason I like it is because when it comes to like brewed coffee and stuff,
Mhm.
if you're not as well versed in the coffee field, I don't taste notes or differences in roasts.
Mm.
If I'm
So
like,
your
even
palate is not refined yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
even if I'm drinking straight black coffee and I have them both in front of me,
Mhm.
and that's how it is for my entire family. They're like, I don't know how it is.
Yeah.
But when it comes to like French press, I can really taste the difference, and I think that's why a lot of people
Yeah.
dig it.
So, okay, so I'm going to give you some little tips here.
Uh-huh.
So in a French press, you're going to get more oils
Mm-hmm.
than you will in drip coffee, or especially in pour over. Pour over extracts some of the oils. So what you're getting, those strong flavors that you're getting, are in the oils.
Mm-hmm.
Does it make sense?
Yeah.
So that's why French press is a great way to taste the coffee, get the notes, but it also has, you're getting that from the oils. So just kind of, that's anything that's going to remove a lot of those oils may remove some of the flavors as well, or the notes that you're going to taste.
And then like the pressure from the actual press of the coffee, it pushes those down
Squishing it.
and leaves that in the
Mhm.
water.
Yep.
And you're now coffee.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's like you're forcing the coffee out of the bean.
Mm-hmm.
Give me my coffee.
And I
you
almost
just
never
push it
have the
down.
grounds.
There you go. It's good.
Despite it being called French press, though, you don't have to press.
No.
I feel better when I do.
It feels
She's got
cooler.
anger issues.
It's immersive.
Part of the reason why that process was invented, what it was to make sort of a semi crema
Mm-hmm.
for the coffee. So
Yeah.
like some people would use it as like a frother almost.
Mm-hmm. When I was researching, I found out like the first person to like ever like French press was a French guy, even though the original French presses were Italian. But original guy was French, and he accidentally had all his coffee grounds, and he dumped them in water without meaning to. And then he didn't want to waste his coffee, so he just took a cloth and like pressed it down, and then he drank what was left of it.
Yeah.
And he really liked it.
Which is similar to another form of home brewing. Cowboy coffee.
Huh.
So cowboy coffee is when you basically take your grounds, put them in a pot with your water, boil them until right at boil, turn it off, take it away from the heat, just let it sit there for a while. The grounds, you can stir it if you want to, and then the grounds just go to the bottom. And then you just literally scoop up a cup of coffee.
Man.
And it's kind of, you can get grounds in it too, but if you skim off the top, then you don't.
It's a little extra.
Yeah, but it's good. It's how they did it out by the campfire, with their beans,
Yeah.
eating their beans like cowboys.
Eat their beans
I mean,
out the cans.
yeah. Pop up with a can of
Nah.
beanie weenies. You know what I'm saying?
Not a barista approved method.
No. That's not the recommended way. All right. Is that all you have for us, French press?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm bringing the fresh.
Bring in the fresh.
So moving a little bit further down the coffee ratio, when you get to about 1 to 10 land, that's where the mocha pot comes into play. The mocha pot is essentially, I don't know if y'all have ever seen one. I have an image of one right here. It's
Also can get those at Walmart.
Yeah,
and
you can
TJ
get them at
Maxx.
Walmart, TJ
Just about
Maxx,
anywhere. About $8 to $9.
Amazon, anywhere. So essentially, it's this bottom compartment and a little metal funnel that the coffee sits in, and a top compartment. Where's my pen?
You can also get those with electric.
Yeah, there's electric versions. There's ones that you just put straight onto the stove.
Yep.
They sell them in all different types of sizes, from like 1 cup all the way to like 12 cups, I believe. Or I don't know if people go crazy on them.
Yeah.
So essentially, how it works, you have all of your coffee in here. You have all of your water in here. As the water starts to boil down in this bottom section, a bunch of steam, a bunch of pressure is going to build up and actually shoot the water up through this funnel, through the coffee beans, and then it'll actually sputter out into this area and just collect there.
It's the steam extraction method of getting espresso.
Yeah.
So there's the espresso machine, La Marzocco, Avant, whatever. Those are all like pressure. If you get like a Breville or DeLonghi or whatever pressure, this is the steam method for getting espresso. So it's like it's the affordable way. This is what I tell everybody. They're like, I want it, but I don't want to get an expensive machine. I'm like, well, get a mocha pot. I mean, it's not going to be the same, but it'll be similar.
Yeah, it was marketed originally as one of the like affordable ways to make.
It's the everyman's espresso. Yeah.
Yeah. Steam powered coffee has been around since like early 1800s. Like ever since people found out about steam power, they were making coffee with it essentially. It didn't get really popular though until about the like 1930s, 1950s by Bialetti. That's a popular coffee brand. It's an Italian family. The father invented it. It wasn't really popular, and then the son picked it up and did a huge marketing campaign, and now it's like the name of mocha coffee. The name mocha is named after a city in Yemen, I believe. I don't think it was invented there, but it's just like a coffee area. Morocco, Yemen, there's a lot of coffee stuff going on there. So
we already mentioned in the first episode too, I think we brought up that the first cup of coffee ever was served in Yemen. So
essentially it's just you put it on the stove or you have your electric kettle, and you just let it boil. It'll build up. There's some like glass versions or ones where you can just leave the lid open and you can see the coffee like start to flow up. You want to take off the heat and stop brewing once it starts to like sputter. It'll make really nasty like noises. And that's when you know it's done.
What was that? Okay. Just want to make sure we got that ASMR. All right.
And then bada bing, bada boom, coffee.
Yeah, so whenever we travel and I don't know if I'm going to be by a good coffee shop, I'll take a mocha pot with me. Or if I forgot one, I'll go to Walmart and pick one up for $9. And I usually always have coffee with me. So, and then it's just a matter of grinding it. And it's one of those things where you probably are not going to grind it as fine as you would for like an espresso machine.
Yeah, but you definitely want it to
be fine. About as fine as you can get.
You want to build up that pressure.
Yep.
And the only way it's going to do that is
and the other thing too, a lot of people don't know is you don't have to like when you tamp a portafilter, you don't have to tamp the espresso. You just basically tap it down just a little bit to make it smooth so that you can screw the top on. Some people think you have to press it down. If you press it down, the steam doesn't go through it as well. So, boom! It's packed in there.
I've had that happen. It's not good.
Come on.
I was like, why isn't this doing anything? It's been like 4 minutes and it started like
Yeah.
rumbling, and I'm like, oh no.
Yep.
So the V60 brew method, yeah, it's similar to a Chemex. You could say it's his cool cousin. It's similar because they have a very similar startup. So you have a filter, you have the carafe and a half. It's like half of the carafe, so you don't have the bottom part of it. So you can put it over any kind of cup you want. It usually makes 1 to 2 cups. It's not meant to make a big batch, but that's on purpose because you're getting a more nuanced, stronger flavor cup versus a Chemex is very clean and light and soft. It kind of extracts all the extra oils. So with the V60, you get more of those oils, so you have a stronger flavor. It follows the brew ratio of 1 to 15, and it's pretty strict on that. So that's because it does produce the stronger coffee. If you go more than that, it may be too strong, which is why they also recommend to do light to medium roast versus a dark roast. But again, that's up to preference. Some people like really, really strong dark coffee, but they recommend light to medium. I would probably prefer that myself. But back to the startup. So it starts out just like Chemex has the filter. You wet it, replace that water, and now you're going to have your ground coffee. It's going to be ground pretty similar to a Chemex, just slightly finer because of the filter being thinner as well. Because the Chemex filter is pretty thick. A V60 filter, or the size 2 filter as some people would call it, is very thin, has a different texture to it, so it doesn't extract as many oils. So your coffee is slightly finer, but still in the medium range. And usually it's about 25 to 30 grams of coffee in. For the water ratio, about 375, 400, again, depending on how much you're trying to make. You can vary that, but it does follow the 1 to 15 ratio. The brew time is actually significantly less than, say, a French press or a Chemex because you can be done in about 2.5, 3 minutes. It shouldn't be brewing longer than 3 minutes. And if it does, it tends to be too strong and it's just too much. So usually it's a pretty quick process. It's also travel friendly because if you have, like, say, a simple plastic or ceramic V60 brewer, you can just take it with you, pack it up, and it's pretty small, can fit in your hand. So a lot of people use it for traveling or just convenience.
Got some cool carry compartments for them too.
They're really cool.
Yeah,
But yeah,
they're
it's
stylish as well.
extremely
Super
similar
trendy.
to the Chemex. Has
Yeah.
the blooming. You do pour about the 75 to 100 grams in the beginning. You gradually pour over the rest of your water. A really great suggestion is to try single origin coffees with a V60 because just like a Chemex, it gives you lots of good tasty notes for those who get into that kind of thing. I personally like single origin, so I like a Chemex, and I think a V60 is going to be pretty similar to that. But it's more convenient, it's supposed to be a little quicker, so that's why some people go towards that method because the Chemex is a little bit bigger for traveling reasons, and it's glass, so it's like, oh no, I'm going to break it when traveling, so we don't want to do that. They are pretty cheap as well. You can find them on Amazon, probably Walmart. They range from $10 upwards to $200 or more, depending on your style. But yeah, both are really good options, but it's like a more simple, slightly stronger version of a Chemex to sum it all up. So yeah,
Awesome.
that's a V60.
What does
Awesome.
it look like?
It looks like the top half of the Chemex. Like if you took a Chemex and you cut it in half, it's going to be that cone shape, and then it stops. And it has something like a plate shape on the bottom of it so that you can sit it on top of a cup.
Looks like a
any
teacup.
cup.
You have to filter down.
And also, a really cool fact about a V60, if you had a cup of coffee from it, it technically has more caffeine than a double shot of espresso, which is technically just because of its volume, because the volume of the espresso is about 30 to 40 grams, and then your cup of coffee obviously is more than that. But technically, if somebody was like, what has more caffeine? A latte, like just a medium latte, or this cup of coffee? Your cup of coffee would if you made it with a V60. Because of its filter and how much coffee you're using, the extraction time, all of that good stuff, it causes it to have more caffeine. So Little cool tip.
Mm-hmm. Nice. So everybody, if you want to be cutesy and demure, go run out and get your V60s.
Go get a V60. It'll save you time and give you more caffeine. Who doesn't love caffeine? Yeah.
All right, let's talk about cold brew.
Cold brew.
Is it cold brew because you take like brewed coffee and then you pour it over ice?
Right, so that was what I wasn't gonna say.
Oh.
Because,
Yeah.
so unsurprisingly, cold brew is brewed cold.
Mm-hmm.
It was introduced to by the Dutch to Japan and has become like one of like their main ways of brewing coffee in Japan for centuries now. It didn't I couldn't find an exact date, but century seems like a long time to me, so I'll leave it there. So whenever you make brewed coffee, you use hot water, but whenever you do cold brew, you're gonna be steeping it or brewing it for like 12 to 24 hours, depending on how concentrated you want it,
Right.
and also depending on how much you have.
Yeah.
Because in like a coffee shop like we're in right now, it's like you're making
About 5 gallons.
5 gallons
Yeah.
of just concentrate, and the 5 gallons of concentrate get multiplied.
Yeah.
They get doubled pretty
So-
much.
So for a gallon of concentrate, the ratio is 1 part coffee to 2 parts water.
Yeah.
So it's pretty significant.
Yeah, and the fun thing about cold brew is that if you have issues with your coffee being too acidic, or if you have really bad acid reflux, it just doesn't sit well with you. Cold brew is really good for that because it's 60 to 70% less acidic, and the reason for that is because whenever it is being brewed, because it's in cold water, the cold water is not extracting the acids or any of the oils or any other notes that people taste in their coffee. So it will also have a different taste as to whenever you brew it cold. And hot water really brings out the flavors and notes in coffee.
My rule for, and I tell this to a lot of people, my rule for cold brew is that cold brew, if it's done right and if you have quality beans, it should taste like it smells. So if you smell like a coffee bag or a bag of coffee beans, then that cold brew, if you make that with the good beans, it should taste like that. If it doesn't, if your cold brew tastes bitter or it tastes weird, tastes funky, either the beans weren't fresh or you don't have good beans. But if you smell it and then you taste the cold brew from it, it should taste like it smells for a good cold brew.
Yeah. And then also, it also has more of a caffeine content than regular brewed coffee. Not by a lot. It's just by a small percentage, so it's not like espresso concentrated, but it's more concentrated than regular hot brewed coffee. So you're gonna get a little more caffeine out of it. And then if you want to make it at home, they sell what they call toddies online. I think you can find them.
So it's a 1 gallon. There's a 1 gallon toddy system, and you can find them. They have them on Amazon. I think they're around $50.
Yeah.
But the nice thing about that is if you make a gallon of cold brew, and you just say you use spring water or purified water, you get a gallon of that. Use that, put that in your cold brew, let it sit for the 12, 24 hours, however long you want, and then you can use that same gallon jug and put that in, put your coffee in it, put that in the fridge, and in the fridge, if it's sealed, it'll last for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So
If it's
cool.
sealed, and then if it's not, it'll last up to 10 days in the fridge.
Yep.
But you can use, honestly, you can even use a big mason jar. You can use a regular gallon jug or something, and do the same thing. So you'll get your coffee and your water. It's going to be 1 part coffee to about 5 parts water, and then your beans have to be fully saturated in the water, because you can, if you don't make sure that it's fully saturated and it's almost like mud,
And like some people like to stir it, some people don't. I'm a stirrer. I like to stir it because I know that it's all saturated, and I don't have to worry about air pockets or any dry spots in the coffee grounds. And then you'll seal it, put it in the fridge for about 12 to 24 hours. And then after that time is up, you'll take it out and you're going to want to strain it into another clean container. And you can use the filters that come with the toddy. The toddy, you're literally brewing it in the thing that it's going to come out of. So you don't have to worry too much about that. But if you're brewing it in anything else, you can use a cheesecloth or what they use to strain like almond milk or oat milk. You can use those cloths to do the same thing, and it won't affect it much. Some people like having coffee grounds in their cold brew. I'm not one of those people. So if you like the coffee grounds, you can use just a regular like mesh strainer. I wouldn't suggest that if you don't like to chew your coffee.
We can put a link to the to the toddy 1 gallon system. It comes with a filter that's like a cotton type filter, and you can rinse it out when you're finished with it and dry it out, and you can use it probably like 3 or 4 times at least. And when you do the toddy system, if you do the ratio right, it's usually about a pound of coffee, so about 16 ounces or so of coffee for the 1 gallon system. And if you do that and you do the water ratio correct, when you're finished with your concentrate, it'll be 1 part coffee to 2 parts water.
Yeah. And so then after you've strained it and everything, now you have concentrate, and if you have it sealed, it'll last up to 3 weeks. But if it's just loosely sealed, you can keep it in the fridge for about 10 days. And then that's just the concentrate. But if you want to dilute it, the recommended is, what was it?
It's 1 to 2.
1 to 2. 1 part's concentrate to 2 parts water. And then that's the recommended. You can do it however you would like. If you want it to be super strong, you go for it.
And some people like super strong, but it just kind of depends too. If you're going to add milk to it, if you're just going to put it over ice, if you're going to put flavor in it, whatever you're going to do. And a lot of people like it when it gets warmer out, springtime, summertime and stuff, because you can just literally like get up, get ready for work, and throw a bit in there. You don't have to take time brewing coffee. You've already done that, and it's in the fridge ready to go.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw you can either do 1 part concentrate to 1 part water, or the 1 part concentrate to 2 parts water. And it all really just depends on your taste. And then
flavor profile.
If you like that, you go for it. But other than that, that's pretty much it. Cold brew is one of the simplest coffee methods to extract the flavors from the beans. It's really delicious.
Yeah. And, a lot of times places will do cold brew, and then they'll do like either some sort of milk or flavoring in the cold brew. Some people don't like any flavoring in the cold brew, and then they like a flavored cold foam over it. That's become pretty popular lately. But the only other, a lot of people ask, what if I don't, what if I'm not like into all these fancy methods or whatever. I think it's fun to experiment and try stuff out. I would say even if you're just doing brewed coffee, make sure that you're getting your ratios of brewed coffee right. Because if you don't, like, have you ever gone to somebody's house and they made coffee and it was just kind of like flavored water? It was really, you could like see through the cup and you're like, oh, this is like tea. Or you go to somebody's house. When I remember my wife used to say that her grandfather made the coffee so thick it was like mud, and it's like that's the way he liked it. But if you're gonna try to do something, like a lot of people, Keurig got real big for a while, and everybody was doing Keurig cups, and that's all great. And you can actually buy some, people that roast coffee, they actually do Keurig now. Like local coffee shops do Keurig, but it's not my favorite way to have it, because when the coffee's ground, it starts deteriorating. The flavor does. Even if you're vacuum sealing it in those little cups, it's still.
So they're selling Keurig coffee at coffee shops?
Yeah,
Is that what?
I know some coffee shops that do. It's yeah. But what are you gonna do?
One that has like good coffee, but
yeah.
they're like, oh, they have
Yeah, Keurig cups. But then also too, so I would recommend if you're not into all this, and if this is like, oh, this is too much. One of the coolest things that you can get is an espresso machine, because you are going to get your espresso or your coffee. You're going to get the pressure that you're trying to get to be able to get a good nice crema on your espresso shot or shots, because they offer double shots as well. Their coffee is okay. It's not like super great, but and it's definitely not as fresh as you would get in a coffee shop. But if you're in a pinch and you're not real handy with coffee tools, espressos work great. I recommend them if you like lattes at home. But yeah, if not, stop by the coffee shop. Your local coffee shop that has great coffee beans, great coffee, do good, drink great coffee. And that wraps it up for our home brewing session.